Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is George. When my wife texted that she wanted a divorce and all communication should be through her lawyer, at first, I didn't even know how to respond. But I pulled myself together and replied that I understood. But what I did in the next 72 hours caught her completely off guard. And not just her. Even her lawyer was blindsided. But for you to really understand why I responded the way I did, and how things escalated from there, you need to hear the full story from the beginning. I met my wife, Mariah, in one of the most random, inconvenient places, a crowded airport. I was on my way to a work meeting in another state. But the flight got delayed. Not by a little. We're talking hours. Everyone was frustrated, tired, and pacing back and forth. Then I noticed Mariah sitting 2 rows away from me in the gate area, reading a paperback novel, but clearly just as annoyed as the rest of us. At some point, I made a dry joke about how the airline must be running on prayers and vibes, and she laughed. We started talking, just to kill time. Eventually, our flight got cleared. We didn't sit next to each other on the plane, but when we landed, I made sure to catch up to her near baggage claim. I asked for her number. She smiled, handed me her phone, and said, "Put your number in, executive man." That made me laugh. I was wearing a full suit and tie, like the stereotypical businessman. Now, I travel a lot for work, back then even more than now. But after that trip, I kept in touch with her. I'd shoot her a message here and there. If I were flying back into her city, I'd let her know and ask if she wanted to grab coffee or dinner. And she always said yes. Even when it was just an hour over lunch or a late evening meetup, after I got off a flight, we talked. Slowly, those little catch-ups turned into something more. We started seeing each other regularly. She became someone I actually looked forward to seeing. We started dating a few months after we met, and everything flowed from there. After a couple of years of dating, Mariah and I tied the knot. There wasn't a grand epiphany. I just knew I wanted to build a life with her. And once we were married, everything felt brighter. And I'll be honest, those first few years were good. I threw myself into our marriage with everything I had. I made sure Mariah never had to worry about a thing. I was doing well in my career, and it felt like my responsibility to take care of her. We didn't have kids, which was a decision we hadn't rushed. Perhaps one day, we thought. Mariah didn't work, and honestly, it wasn't a big discussion point. She stayed home while I worked. Her days were filled with what you'd expect from someone living comfortably. I never once used money to control her or make her feel indebted. Every cent I spent was because I wanted to, because I believed in our marriage, in us. The cracks in my marriage really started to show in the last year or two before it all blew up. At the time, I didn't see them for what they were. I've always had a demanding job. I travel a lot for work. It wasn't unusual for me to be gone for several days, sometimes even a couple of weeks. At first, Mariah understood. We both knew the kind of life we were signing up for. But over time, I started noticing a change in her, and it wasn't subtle. When I'd come home from these trips, it felt like I was walking into a cold, quiet house. She'd barely look up from her phone or whatever book she was reading. Conversations became transactional. Did you pick up the dry cleaning? Or we're out of almond milk? No, how was your trip? No, I missed you. I couldn't figure out when it had gone up or why. I'd try to hold her close, and she'd either pull away or act like she didn't notice. I don't know if you've ever lived with someone who acts like you're invisible, but it messes with your head. Still, I kept telling myself it was just temporary. I thought if I just worked a little harder, carved out more time, stepped back from the company in the near future, we'd bounce back. That was the plan anyway. I kept saying to myself, once I step down from my role at the company, things will get better. Then she began posting quotes on social media. At first, I didn't pay them much attention. But over time, they got more pointed. Stuff like, sometimes the only way to be free is to walk away, or new beginnings require letting go of the past. She'd post those with inspirational backgrounds. I still didn't confront her. So I was on one of my usual business trips, this time a 5-day trip overseas. My work often takes me across borders, and while it's not ideal for a marriage, it's the life we've both adjusted to. I'd landed in the new country, checked into the hotel, and like always, I sent Mariah a message about landing safely. No reply. But I didn't think much of it at first. Then, on the third night of my arrival, I'd just wrapped up a long dinner meeting with clients and was heading back to my hotel room when my phone buzzed. I glanced down, expecting something work-related, but it was a message from Mariah. I opened it quickly, thinking maybe she was finally replying. Instead, I got hit with a line that knocked the air out of me. I want a divorce. All communication will be through my lawyer moving forward. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed for a minute, just staring at the screen. She wanted formality? Fine. She'd get it. I took a breath and replied to her with understood. The moment I sent that reply, I went straight into strategy mode. The first thing I did was call my lawyer. I explained what had just happened, and we got to work right away. Then I looped in my accountant. Within hours, every joint credit card was canceled. Shared bank accounts? Frozen. All those automatic payments I'd been covering without even blinking, I pulled the plug on all of them. Within 24 hours, Mariah's credit cards started getting declined. And then, the call started. She tried to reach me multiple times, but I watched the screen light up with her name, over and over, while not picking up. I was obeying her instructions. She made it clear that she wanted to go through lawyers, so that's exactly what I gave her. Later that evening, I got an email from her lawyer. A long, emotionally charged letter, trying to sound official, but full of passive-aggressive jabs. It was laced with phrases like willful abandonment, spousal neglect, and failure to maintain financial responsibilities. Basically, her lawyer was demanding that I resume financial support immediately or face legal consequences. I didn't even read it twice. I just forwarded it straight to my legal team with a simple note, "Please handle this." They suggested we shouldn't reply. See, what Mariah didn't count on was that I wasn't going to wait around, confused and heartbroken, while she planned to drag this divorce out at her own pace. She thought she was going to file first, control the narrative, and enjoy the same lifestyle uninterrupted while she negotiated her freedom. What she got instead was a harsh reality check. She didn't expect me to move faster than her. She didn't think I'd be strategic. She definitely didn't think I'd have every financial faucet turned off before she could even sit down with her lawyer and draft demands. And honestly, I think her lawyer didn't expect it either. The way I moved threw them off. Her legal team was probably used to dealing with emotional husbands, not prepared ones. That silence I gave her? That wasn't weakness. That was planning. Exactly 72 hours after her first message, my phone rang again. But this time, it wasn't Mariah. It was her lawyer, directly. Which, if you know anything about legal proceedings, you know that's not how it's supposed to work. Lawyers are meant to go through each other. They don't just pick up the phone and call the other party. But here he was, calling me directly. He was frantic. "George, we need to talk," he said, sounding like someone who just realized their strategy had completely backfired. "My client is willing to discuss things amicably. She's open to a more collaborative approach." I paused for a second, letting the weight of what he was saying settle. And then I gave him the most professional answer I could give. "There's no misunderstanding. She made it clear she wanted to communicate through lawyers. That's what we'll do. Everything from this point forward will be handled through court. Nothing more, nothing less." And I hung up. Because if you're going to treat your husband like a business transaction, don't be shocked when he treats the fallout like a business strategy. Remember when my wife, Mariah, texted me that she wanted a divorce? I then contacted my own lawyer, and one of the first things he did was hire a private investigator. We needed leverage when battling out in court, and one way to get that is to understand what had really been going on behind the scenes. Mariah didn't know I had someone quietly watching and digging through her life, looking at things from the outside. And less than a week later, the private investigator found something. Turns out, Mariah was physically and romantically involved with someone I never expected. Her lawyer. They weren't just working together on the divorce. They had something going on. Pictures from discreet hotel visits, late-night meetups that matched up suspiciously well. It was all there. She had been seeing him while still married to me, and he was likely the one encouraging her to cut ties and walk away from a marriage while holding out her hand for support and settlement money. And here's the part that hit me the hardest. They were planning to quietly build a new life together, using the marriage as leverage on the way out. I won't lie to you. I was hurt deeply. You don't share 7 years of your life with someone, support their entire lifestyle, only to find out they've been preparing to leave you while warming up to someone else behind your back. But at the same time, I was no longer walking blind. I had evidence, and more importantly, I had a reason to protect myself legally and financially. Armed with this discovery, my lawyer wasted no time. He filed a counterclaim against Mariah. The documents we submitted cited not just her sudden decision to pull out of the marriage, but also her infidelity. That changed everything. Now, here's the thing most people don't realize. We live in a fault-based divorce state. That means if one party is found to be responsible for the breakdown of the marriage, like, say, cheating or mismanaging funds, the court takes that into account when deciding settlements. So when my team presented solid proof of the affair and documented Mariah's long history of irresponsible spending, her leverage completely collapsed. She had walked into this thinking she was in control, that she could quietly exit the marriage, keep the narrative in her hands, and cash out comfortably on her way to her new life. But once her secrets hit the courtroom floor, everything shifted. Her so-called controlled exit turned into a train wreck. The judge didn't need to be convinced for long. We showed how she spent excessively for years entertaining another man in the guise of legal services. She didn't just lose the moral high ground. She lost her legal footing entirely. The divorce itself got messy, as you'd expect, but it was decisive. When it was all over, Mariah didn't walk away with half of everything like she thought she would. The settlement she got was modest. It barely covered her high legal expenses. She had been banking on a comfortable exit, picturing herself moving into a new upscale condo, whining and dining her way through her fresh start. Instead, she ended up humbled. Actions have consequences, and secrets don't stay buried for long, especially when you go to war with someone who's been nothing but good to you. After everything was finalized, I thought I'd never hear from her again, especially after how she left. But some days after, I got a message from an unknown number. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. The next day, a longer text came in this time. She said she regretted how things played out, that maybe she acted too fast, that maybe she didn't fully understand what she wanted. She didn't mention the man she left me for. She didn't mention the fact that she tried to cut me off cold. She skipped all the parts that mattered and focused only on how she felt now, lonely, confused, open to healing. I'll be honest, part of me felt anger boil up. When I didn't respond to the text, the calls started. Different numbers. Some just rang once. Some left voicemails. "Please, I just want to talk. George, I didn't mean for this to happen. We were good once. Doesn't that count for something? Yes, we were good. Once. But we don't measure love by how good it was before the damage. We measure it by what survives after the storm. And in our case, nothing did. Not even the decency to be honest when it mattered. So I gave her the only response I could, silence. Eventually, she caught me off guard. I answered a call without checking the number. It was her. Her voice was shaky, like she was trying to cry, but couldn't quite get the tears out. She said she realized what she gave up, that she never stopped loving me, that she just got lost due to my frequent trips, that we could fix this if I was willing. I let her talk, and when she finished, I told her, "When you made me your enemy, you lost the right to call me your partner." She went quiet. I hung up, blocked the number, and blocked every new attempt she made after that. I didn't care. The door wasn't just closed, it was locked, bolted, and sealed. Some people only learn what they have after they destroy it. But by then, it's too late. Looking back, if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: don't ignore the signs. They're never as small or harmless as they seem. My wife didn't just wake up one day and decide to leave. There were cracks in the foundation for a while, moments where she pulled away emotionally, when she stopped communicating, when her affection disappeared, when those cryptic quotes started showing up online. I told myself we were just going through a rough patch, that things would settle down when I had more time. But ignoring those signs only gave her more space to make up her mind without me even realizing it. I was in the relationship alone, thinking we were still a team. Another thing I've learned is this: love means nothing without loyalty. I loved her. I provided for her. I gave her everything I could. But none of that mattered, because when it came down to it, she didn't value the loyalty that should come with love. It's not about money or gifts or even time. It's about showing up for each other, not planning your exit behind someone's back. The moment she chose to handle things the way she did, texting me like a business transaction, not even giving me a conversation, she broke something that couldn't be repaired. And finally, silence and calmness can be more powerful than rage. I could have gone into panic mode, but instead, I handled it like a man who respected himself. I let my actions do the talking. I pulled the financial plug and protected myself legally. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is to stay steady when everything's falling apart around you. Now I'm curious, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have done more? Or was I too harsh? Or maybe not harsh enough? I'd really like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. Anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate every one of you. See you in the next one.